Classic World of Warcraft's massive future in 2024. Yo, what will happen to Classic WoW?
Themed about World of Warcraft 2. The graphics of Unreal Engine 5, incredibly lifelike NPCs, beautiful zones, big titty Sally.
Sally
that
White.
Honestly might just be me. Anyways, we've all thought about it over the years. The perfect sequel to World of Warcraft, which somehow is still the top dog after nearly 20 years. But let's be honest, we aren't getting that. Because the riots we'd have from all the neckbeards, myself included, who have 20,000 hours and hundreds of useless mounts, transmogs, achievements, and all that other shit we don't ever use would be terrifying. Just think, imagine 100,000 Asmongols marching down the street in protest. But that mentality is a really bad take from people, because all of those achievements, mounts, transmogs, and the other bullshit we've collected over the past 2 decades, those could simply be fond memories we think of as we spend another 20.
I'm wondering if this actually gets people stuck into like World of Warcraft version 1 we have right now, and that's also one of the reasons why there's no WoW 2 coming. I mean, not only do they have to start from scratch with like a new engine, new graphics, but I actually feel like there's like a large portion in the community that would almost get upset if there was a WoW 2 because they no longer have their achievements and mounts they collected over the years. Who knows? Like for me, I don't care if I lose everything if I can get a WoW 2. But that's just me.
2 decades. Those could simply be fond memories we think of as we spend another 20,000 hours collecting newer things. But nah, it won't happen. Classic Plus, on the other hand, now that is something we can get and something that we should get. Looking at the success of Classic Plus private servers like Turtle WoW, at the success of Hardcore on Classic, as well as the myriad of other Classic Plus private servers that are doing very well, we can see that there's a large demand for Classic WoW that keeps going and just doesn't stop. Blizzard was completely wrong about players not wanting Classic, and it'd be wrong to think we don't want Classic Plus. I mean, honestly, we just want WoW 2, but we'll settle for Classic Plus. It'll also probably cost just a fraction of the price of making World of Warcraft 2, whilst giving people a glimpse of it. Since WoW was released in 2004, it's had an ungodly amount of updates and expansions. Some pleasant, some vilified, and some people that initially hated it back in the day now reminisce about it fondly as if they weren't raging in the forums back then. Yet people keep wanting to go back to the roots of WoW because they miss the nostalgia, the community, the simplicity, and the lore. For large...
You know what just crossed my mind? So WoW came out in early 2000s. So the community, like a lot of players are in their 30s, right? Some in their 40s. And we have a few in their 20s. But if I had to look at like the freaking age demographics and all, like when I look at like how old the community is, I would say the majority of players is in their 30s right now, right? And that would make sense because if you go back to the release of WoW and the first expansions when the hype was big, a lot of people were in their like early adult years, right? They were like 18, 16, 19 and all that, and now they're in their like mid-late 30s and stuff, right? So it makes sense. But one thing I'm wondering though, will there still be a lot of people playing the game in their 50s? Like, there are like older men that still play video games, right? But what is it 10 years, for example? Like, this is something I'm wondering. Will they ever get into like making a WoW 2, and when? Because our community has not so many new players. Like, there's still new players trying out World of Warcraft. They want to see how it is. But I feel like it's like mostly, like they're mostly trying to keep the players that have been playing the game for like 10 plus years, right? But what about new players, younger players in their early 20s that want to try out an MMO? Is WoW really that MMO for like new players, those that want to get into MMOs for the first time or not? Because if I look at like some more modern MMOs, also like when you look at like Final Fantasy, if you look at like maybe Elder Scrolls Online, like you have like those MMOs that are more new player friendly in comparison to WoW, because WoW is not new player friendly. Like the starting experience is kind of weird. Like it's like you get like as a new player puzzles that you have to put yourself together, and you're not being given a hand through the story with a red string so you even understand what the heck's going on, right? You are like time walking campaigns, nobody has a clue what's going on. Why is there a new king? What happened to like Sylvanas? Why is she suddenly evil? She disappeared. Like nobody gets what's happening in WoW. So there's no new player experience that is like that good, right? It's mostly to keep the old players engaged. So this is why we still have like classic WoW and not a WoW 2.
large portion of people who actively play WoW or consume WoW content. Most of us have been playing since we were kids or teenagers. We have incredible memories and we want to relive those memories. Now this isn't a nostalgia bait video. I've done that already, twice in fact.
It shouldn't just be
like
about
every other WoW
nostalgia. It should be about fun.
Plays a part in why people like Classic WoW, and that's why Classic Plus would be a huge boon to the game, because you'd get to create new memories, exploring and discovering the world of Classic with new features, raids, content and more. And it would give guilds a reason to be active and not just be raid loggers waiting for the next raid. Imagine the excitement of new farm locations, discovering secrets out in the open world, some full PvP zones, and more things for players to sink their teeth into. Or I'd hope so at least. Maybe people would be less antisocial with these changes. If you want to play a single player MMO, just play Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail. They could also make the game more difficult, give harder difficulties to classic raids, add new mechanics to Molten Core for example. WoW has gotten far more challenging over the years, but the challenge isn't necessarily good or fun. If you've done Mythic Plus or Mythic raiding in retail, you can understand what I'm saying. I was never really savvy enough to go balls to the walls with it, but pointlessly complex mechanics to counteract the powerful add-ons isn't exactly the definition of fun. They could add difficulty that was less reliant on dodge the 55 missiles coming out of Ragnaros' booty hole and avoid his cock slam that happens exactly every 3.4 seconds, and if one person gets hit, you all die. And instead they could add more adds, a few more phases, heck, even add cooler music to get your blood pumping. Listen to this Final Fantasy.
I have a question for the hardcore classic players out there. Like, not hardcore like hardcore mode, but those that want to do like super difficult dungeons and raids. Would you guys like to see like completely new bosses added into classic WoW? Or do you feel like this would break the classic immersion and you feel like you no longer can go back to your memories and do the bosses you did like 10 plus years ago? Because this is something I'm wondering, like what if they add like new mobs, new NPCs and new bosses and even maybe new dungeons into classic WoW? Is that still a classic WoW or is that like just a WoW with old graphics and old engines? Like, what would it be actually? This is like something this confused me always about Classic Plus. If you make a WoW Classic because you want to bring back nostalgia, but you add like new stuff that wasn't there back in the day, is that still a classic WoW? Is that just a different version of WoW? Like, what do you call that even? Is that classic? That's like WoW something else, right?
14 OST right here.
That's why we should have just a WoW too, like come on.
Look, I'm not a content designer. I don't know how hard or easy it is to design content. I'm just saying difficulty should be more about a challenge and not calculating the trajectory and location of where the US military will firebomb the Middle East. And tying back into what I said about the game above, people love Classic and by extension Classic Plus because of the simplicity of the game. After almost 2 decades of bloat, retail feels like it's limping along, patching its cuts, its bruises and its wounds rather than actively taking care of the core issues. Classic didn't have all that excess bloat, and Classic Plus could improve and add on to the simple features that made Classic, with things like more quest lines and chains for unique rewards, an improvement on the talents in the game, and a mild class and talent revamp for the more useless classes. For example, Shadow Priest not being as poorly designed as it is, or Prop Paladin being a tank and guess what? Actually having a
that's not true. I don't think Shadow Priest is badly designed. I had like tons of fun on the class. He's talking about retail, right? Because he shows like retail stuff. Like, that's what actually confused because he says classic World of Warcraft Massive future in 2024. Like, sure, this is about classic WoW, but we also see like a lot of retail here, right? And I don't think Shadow Priest is that bad actually. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. I think Shadow Priest is fine.
For example, Shadow Priest not being as poorly designed as it is, or Prop Paladin being a tank and guess what? Actually having a taunt. Throw in more races that people actually want, like ogres and high elves, cross-faction guild, and groupings so that whilst the PvP sweat lords battle it out, orc versus human, me on the other hand can go on a picnic with an orc and a human. Whether PvP stays separate or not is a different question.
Now we no longer have factions.
Team will have to figure that one
out.
Really, but PvE has no reason to be kept separate. Add in reputations to grind and have more systems tied to it. Let me grind some useless reputation like Zug Zug's Premier Fishing and have the exalted reward be a club that you fish with. Add add way more dungeons, more places to explore and discover, interesting farming spots like Grimvatol, Stratholm proper, Ruins of Hyjal, Oralis and Gilneas. Design and expand on the classic PvP system, just make it better than what it is, but keep it unique in the way that it was. But most of all, more important than anything else I just listed,
is going
back to the beginning with the lore. Before we as the players were champions of Azeroth, protectors of the galaxy, defeater of the Burning Legion, master of insert class here, killer of God. And back to when we were just simple adventurers exploring, discovering, and banding together in the hundreds to defeat major villains. Maybe this way they won't write themselves into a corner with bigger and badder villains each expansion, because they wouldn't need a reason to keep creating stronger villains if we...
talking about villains, like Dragonflight, like the Primals, I still do not fully get what makes them villains. They're kind of like the enemy faction, right? But I can't see the Primals as villains, because what they basically, from what I get also from the story, are trying to say with their military sort of movement against the Dragonflights and us as players is, we want to stick to the old ways. We want to be one with the elements, this and that, right? We want to not follow the Titans' lead. We don't want the Titans' blessing. We just want to stay old school and be one with the elements. We don't want to get corrupted because we see the Titans' influence as corruption. So they have like a different view on things, but they are not necessarily evil, right? Like, what's bad about shamanism and elements, right? And when you look at the lore, like elements, they need land and they need Azeroth to exist. So if someone's trying to tell me the Primals, they are trying to destroy Azeroth, that makes no sense, because water elementals, they need clean water to exist, right? Earth elementals, they need clean earth to exist, right? So if you destroy Azeroth, there are no more elements, right? So I don't believe that they are going to freaking destroy Azeroth. It makes no sense, because they need it. So, yeah, that's what's so confusing to me personally about like what makes them the villains, the Primals in Dragonflight. To me, they're not villains.
As the players stayed as adventurers. And this way the lore would not be molested as horribly as the writers have done over the course of 2 decades. I think the lore is okay now. We have 2-bit Thanos, Sylvanas being morally grey.
That's true, actually.
Tyrande being made useless as a plot device. Vol'jin dying for no goddamn reason at all. Hashtag Garrosh did nothing wrong.
Hashtag Garrosh did nothing wrong. Actually, Vol'jin dying actually upset me kind of, because he was a cool character and I saw a lot of potential in the future for him. They should have at least put him into a coma or something, not killed him off. Like, why did he not get so heavily injured that some mage throws him into an ice block to maybe later cure him or something? Or he gets like somehow reborn, he becomes like some lower person or something. Like, why did they just write him off totally? Like, he's no longer existent. We don't even see him come back. Yeah, we are with his ghost in Shadowlands and stuff. But where's Vol'jin now? Why he doesn't have a comeback? He was actually a cool character. It sucks.
Thrall becoming Thrawler, and more things to count. I don't have the time to list every major grievance I have with the lore, because holy fuck do I have so many. Also, if Anduin is going to be gay with Rathian, just make them gay. What's with the teasing? Please. I'm not gay for wanting that, but like, goddamn, kiss already. But at least with Classic Plus, if they do decide to ruin the story a completely unique second time, they might not ruin my favorite characters this time. Then we have customization and player creativity, which has been expanded upon but stifled all the same. 20 years of gameplay and no player housing. We got garrisons which then promptly got abandoned. Why can't my orc have a farm in Durotar so I can farm turnips and pigs? Why can't my human have a little countryside manor in Alwyn Forest where I refuse to pay the peasants a fair wage and further bolster the Defias Brotherhood's numbers? What about if my orc wants a countryside manor in Alwyn Forest? Think about the inclusivity.
Yeah,
and honestly, player housing should have been in retail a decade ago, but for some reason, we as players aren't allowed to have homes and
yeah, this is what I don't get, because other games have that, like New World has freaking housing, ESO has freaking housing, and so many other MMOs have that. Like, what's so hard about adding that? Like, if they want to do it like Garrisons, where you have like something that's already there from the beginning and you have this kind of system, why not just add one house per race or something, and with a small and a big version? So you have a small house that's cheap. Let's say you have an orc hut, like a mud hut somewhere in Durotar. There's like an instance you have to actually port in, so it's not really on the map. Like on the map, it's just a marker, and there's the house, and it's like a separate instance you play, you get in. That's actually how they do it kind of in ESO. Like you have a map, then you have like this housing icon. It's almost like a dungeon you have to teleport in. It's like an individual instance that's per player or something, right? And you can invite others, and let's say 8 people can be at a time visiting your house or something. They could do it like that, right? And then you have like this small mud orc house, and then you have like some orc kind of stronghold in the mountains or something. That's if you're like super rich. It costs maybe 7-8 million gold or something, and the small house is just 1 million gold or something. That would be fun. And yeah, each race gets it. Like you get maybe some sort of crypt for Forsaken, and you get some Scarlet Crusade kind of rune or something if you want the big house as a Forsaken. Yo, that would be so cool. Like I have so many ideas. Like if Blizzard needs any advice on housing or cool ideas, like I have so much imagination. I have lots of fantasy here. Like I always come up with cool ideas. So you can ask me.
Aren't allowed to have homes and are forced to rent forever. Champion of Azeroth, but you're homeless. Interesting. We don't even have guild halls. Imagine the community benefits of having a guild hall. Hanging up Onyxia's her head on the wall. Ragnaros's hammer, Kalthazard's phylactery. You could showcase your guild's achievements, have a place for people to meet, a more unique place to jump around mentally AFK whilst you wait for someone to log on and start something. Imagine having an awesome castle in Redridge where all of your guildies group up, discuss business, plan activities, and more. They could make the world 100 times more active by having player housing instances scattered throughout the world. Throw in a guild housing place in Alwyn, throw one in Durotar, throw one across the world so people have to go to their guild housing location. Imagine customizing your farm or your guild hall with random decorations, or your GM stealing the guild bank being your GM actually stealing the guild bank because he stole the whole goddamn castle by kicking everyone out of the guild. Imagine all the drama videos.
The heck was
My
this
GM
clip?
stole our castle, but in all honesty, the innovation needed to make Classic Plus good is far less than the innovation needed to make World of Warcraft 2. The effort is far less, but it would create such a happy community and would give people so much more desire to return to the game and keep playing.
That's true.
Blizzard already knows everything the players want. Just look at all the private servers. Tack on a hardcore option or a hardcore server. Give people some unique stuff for completing pointless challenges and let people create their own fun and activities. Vanilla was fun because we created the adventure we wanted to experience. And whilst Classic imitated that really well, in my personal opinion, the only way to get that feeling back is Classic Plus. Or WoW 2. I will never say no to World of Warcraft 2, but I just don't see how WoW 2 would even be feasible. It would be a Herculean effort, but it would honestly be one of the most defining moments in game.
You know how I would do a WoW 2 if I was a writer for Blizzard or something? I would make a WoW 2 that takes time in a different time period. So, like, if you want to have a WoW 2, you do following. And this is advice I can directly give now to Blizzard. If they're watching it, like, actually listen to this. This is a cool idea. So, you do like we are going to do some sort of time skip, and 100 years later, there's some event taking place, and for that, Warcraft 4 strategy game comes out. And the plot from Warcraft 4, from that strategy game, that is a completely independent plot. Like, let me give you guys a crazy example for a plot. So, we have the Legion, we have Sargeras that is now imprisoned, right? What about like making a Warcraft 4 that's about the escape of Sargeras? Like for some reason he breaks out of his prison 100 years later, and all the main characters, including Anduin, Jaina Proudmoore, all of them, of course the orcs, because their lifespan is as long as humans, right? In 100 years they're all dead, so there's no more Thrall, there's no more Jaina, no more Anduin. Like all the old characters, except for maybe like some elven characters, right? And they're not probably like pretty old or something. They are no longer there, or maybe they died during war from sickness, or there are like ways to get rid of all the old characters, right? Then you make like a new plot about maybe Sargeras broke free, and perhaps there's like some sort of necromancer again, but like with a different plot. Maybe he wants to take revenge on someone. He's not like the servant of a dreadlord, and he's also like a side villain, and the main villain is Sargeras, right? And then you create this plot, and he's trying to destroy Azeroth or take revenge. And then maybe Illidan gets captured or something happens to him, and he's of course still alive because he's part demon. And during the campaign we have to free Illidan, and he makes some reference to like maybe the old plots that happened during World of Warcraft, right? And then maybe there's like some child of a famous character. Maybe Tyrande has a other child, or maybe her daughter appears again or something, right? And then we get to know like the generations that came after those famous people and characters from the WoW timeline, right? That would be so cool. And then we have to actually destroy Sargeras, not imprison him, but we're actually in Warcraft 4 trying to destroy him. Or perhaps we are doing it in World of Warcraft 2. Then it would be kind of like with Warcraft 3 with Arthas, right? How Arthas like escapes and stuff. And in World of Warcraft we kill him. And in World of Warcraft 4 we actually get to fully destroy Sargeras for good. Wow, that would be a very cool plot.
Gaming history, if Blizzard did undertake the task of creating
so
WoW
it's more
2,
demon
I
themed
always
than
like to
undead
imagine a
themed,
world
right?
with such a game, all the features, all the things in it. But I don't have to, because the Riot MMO is a few years out, and I'm sure that'll essentially be WoW 2. Regardless, players are drawn to the game's sense of nostalgia, community, difficulty by design, simplicity, and lore. Classic Plus offers that to us by simply being a revamp and continuation of the vanilla and classic experience, and allows us to relive the early days of WoW, but in a more modern way, with features and designs that would be beneficial to the player base. And maybe potentially a graphical update. Potentially if Blizzard is willing to try to spend the time and money. But that's why I think WoW Classic Plus is the future of World of Warcraft. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you hated the video, subscribe so you can hate my next video too. Also, watch this video right here if you want to see me rant about Amazon games. Thank you, Ebenhard out.
That would be actually cool if we do get like stuff like housing, and like maybe like new bosses added to old raids and dungeons. Because if you've cleared something like 50 plus times, it starts to get boring after some time, right? So if you can do the same thing again, but you suddenly have like new mobs, new mechanics, new bosses, that would be interesting. But then the big question is that still a classic WoW? Or is that some other version of WoW? Because the meaning of classic WoW is so you can go back to the vanilla WoW days and get like a close to it experience, right? But if you add like so much new stuff to it, or even housing to classic WoW, it's no more classic WoW. It's like a completely new game, so it's no more nostalgia. And then you have to attract not old players but new players, right? Because classic WoW is to attract old players. That's the feeling I get. Like classic WoW is kind of like, hey, I remember, like, do you remember how you used to play WoW 5 years ago, but you quit the game because you didn't like the new expansion or something? Now we have a classic WoW for you, so you can return to your good memories and play the WoW that you used to again. Like that's what I thought was like the catching sort of idea for like getting players back, right? So yeah, it would be kind of strange if we have too much new stuff in Classic WoW, because that wouldn't get the old players back. So if they want WoW to be a big franchise, like a super big one, and still like at its kind of like back to its prime, if that's ever even possible, then they need to make a WoW 2 in my opinion. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Do you guys think it's better to work on Classic WoW, add like new stuff to it and make it sort of not like the vanilla experience? Or do you think it's also time to start with a WoW 2 and develop it over like 4 or 5 years, and in the meantime we get like maybe one more expansion for WoW Retail or something, right? Maybe one more Classic WoW in those 4 years or so, and then we get like the early version of WoW 2, perhaps a Warcraft 4 in like 4 or 5 years with a new plot, like I said, maybe 100 years later after the current events. All characters almost dead except a few. That would be cool, because that also gives room for introducing new interesting characters with cool backstories. Maybe a whole new continent that exists on Azeroth that we have not seen yet. But yeah, let me know in the comment section what you wish for. And yeah, if you guys haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I will see you guys next time.